Michael believed his money and status gave him the right to do anything. He shot a water pistol at Royal Guard John, humiliating him in front of the crowd. But John's calm and resolute response left everyone stunned. What was meant to be a harmless prank spiraled into an unexpected turn that changed everything that day. What happened next? The morning fog hugged Buckingham Palace, casting a mystical veil over the iconic landmark. Tourists flooded the square, cameras flashing and maps in hand, eager to capture every moment. Among them stood John, a guard with a posture as rigid as his uniform. His piercing gaze never wavered, embodying the unwavering discipline and honor of the British Guards. Today was no ordinary day. An influx of tourists meant extra challenges. John remained immobile at his post, his bearskin hat gleaming under the London sun, his uniform spotless. Despite the relentless attempts to rattle him, he stayed composed, a living symbol of tradition and respect. In the crowd, a group of 5 caught John's attention, led by Michael, a brash American with an overinflated sense of entitlement. Michael thrived on pushing boundaries, clearly believing his tourist dollars granted him carte blanche. He swaggered forward, camera swinging wildly. "Hey man, can you take a break for a selfie?" Michael shouted, grinning obnoxiously. "Sorry sir, I'm on duty," John replied calmly, eyes fixed straight ahead. But Michael wasn't having it. He nudged his friends, eyes darting between John and his phone. "Come on buddy, show us some moves. Let's see that guard dance." Michael laughed, trying to coax John into a ridiculous pose. John blinked once, then continued his stance, unshaken. The tension thickened. Everyone knew this dance. Tourists around them started to chuckle, some recording the exchange, others shaking their heads in disbelief. Seriously, who does that? Michael clearly thought he was the star of the show, treating the guard like a prop in his Instagram feed. The crowd's reactions were mixed. Some found it hilarious, others irked by the blatant disrespect. An elderly passerby muttered under his breath, "They've lost all sense of decorum." John's expression remained stoic, but inside, he felt the sting of each snide comment and mocking gesture. He respected his role, the centuries-old traditions he upheld, and these tourists. They were tearing it all down for a cheap thrill. "We all know guards aren't here for your entertainment," the author seems to whisper, echoing the silent frustration of onlookers. Yet here we are, watching tradition being mocked for a few likes. As Michael pushed further, the air buzzed with anticipation. Would John finally crack, or would he maintain his dignity against the tide of modern disrespect? The stage was set, and everyone waited to see how this clash of old versus new would unfold. The tension was thickening. Michael and his crew weren't backing down. They were escalating. Dan, one of the tourists, stepped up, trying to yank John's bearskin hat off his head. "Come on, dude. I know how a real guard looks," Dan taunted, tugging at the hat's edge. John calmly placed the hat back on, his face a mask of professionalism. "Please leave the uniform alone," he responded evenly. Michael seized the moment, grabbing a coin and flicking it into John's shoe with a smirk. "Look, we're already funding the Royal Guard. Aren't you lucky?" The crowd around them started to react. Some tourists laughed along with Michael, finding his antics amusing. Others frowned, clearly annoyed by the disrespect. An elderly Londoner shook his head in disappointment. "This group is ruining our traditions," he muttered. "Seriously, who does that?" Michael clearly thought he was the main attraction, treating John like a walking prop for his social media antics. The mix of reactions was palpable. Some found it funny, others were visibly upset. The author's voice cuts in, echoing the silent frustration of onlookers. "We all know guards aren't here for your entertainment, but these tourists, they seem blissfully unaware." Just when it couldn't get any worse, Michael whipped out a water pistol and aimed it directly at John. "Let's make it official! Water is a legitimate form of interaction, right?" he sneered. John didn't flinch. He took the water pistol from Michael with a steady hand, meeting his gaze. "Fine, if you want to play, let's do it properly." The crowd held its breath, cameras ready. Michael's bravado was faltering, realizing he might have pushed too far. The author interjects with a hint of sarcasm. Seriously, you two think he's taking this a bit far? Of course! John's calm demeanor contrasted sharply with Michael's chaotic energy. The onlookers began to shift their support. More eyes turned to John, admiration replacing initial amusement. The author reinforces the sentiment. Look around. Everyone's starting to see who's really in control here. As Michael hesitated, the tension in the air was electric. Would John maintain his composure, or would Michael's antics finally get a reaction? The stage was set for a showdown that everyone was watching, eager to see if tradition could withstand modern disrespect. The crowd froze, eyes locked on the water gun duel between John and Michael. Michael sprayed water at John with a mix of anger and mockery, believing he was the star of this unscripted show. But John wasn't just dodging shots, he was making a statement. Each drop from his water gun was a silent plea for respect over ridicule. "Do you realize this isn't helping us preserve traditions?" John asked, barely missing Michael with a splash of water. Michael blinked, stunned. He expected aggression, not this calm, almost wise response. "Seriously? Who does that? You push someone's buttons and they just question you? Ridiculous." Before Michael could muster another taunt, chaos erupted. A little girl burst from the crowd, tears streaming down her face as she searched desperately for her father among the sea of tourists. "Mommy!" she cried, scanning the crowd with wide, frightened eyes. Without hesitation, John dropped his water gun and rushed to her side. He wrapped her gently in his cloak, his disciplined demeanor softening as he began to search for her. The crowd watched in stunned silence as he moved with unexpected tenderness, orchestrating a search with calm authority. Michael stood there, water gun in hand, suddenly realizing the gravity of his actions. His bravado deflated instantly. This wasn't a game. He had crossed the line. The crowd's mood shifted. Admiration for John replaced earlier amusement. "See, this is the true spirit of the British Guard," one tourist remarked, capturing the moment on their phone. The author can't help but interject. "Look at that. Here's someone who actually understands what respect means, while others are just here for the gram." The irony wasn't lost on anyone watching. Michael's entitlement, fueled by his tourist dollars, had blinded him to real values. John continued his search, his presence commanding respect. The little girl clung to him, finding solace in his unwavering composure. The crowd began to murmur, their support for John growing louder, drowning out Michael's earlier antics. "You think you're so important because you're paying for this experience? Well, newsflash, it's not about you." John's actions spoke louder than any words could. Michael stood there, watching as the crowd's support for John solidified. His realization hit hard. He wasn't the main attraction. The guard was. The people respected John, not because of his uniform, but because of his integrity. As John found the girl's father, relief washed over the crowd. Applause erupted, echoing through the square. Michael hung his head, the weight of his actions sinking in. The author adds with a hint of sarcasm, "Who knew saving the day would be more rewarding than your petty provocations?" John handed the little girl back to her grateful father, his duty fulfilled with grace. The crowd dispersed, but the lesson lingered. Tradition and respect had triumphed over modern disrespect and entitlement. Michael, humbled and embarrassed, muttered an apology, but the damage was done. The crowd's admiration for John was unwavering, a testament to the enduring power of honor over arrogance. As the sun set behind Buckingham Palace, John adjusted his hat and resumed his post, the embodiment of tradition restored. The author concludes with a knowing nod. Sometimes, all it takes is a little humility to remind us what truly matters. After John helped the little girl find her father, the tension began to ease. Michael stood there, dumbfounded by his own actions, while the tourists buzzed with chatter about what had just happened. "Sorry, sir," Michael finally said, lowering his head. "I was wrong. This isn't the place for jokes." John looked at him with a hint of understanding but maintained his composure. "We all make mistakes," he replied with a subtle smile. "The important thing is to respect our traditions and the people around us." The crowd erupted in applause, their appreciation for John evident. Someone filmed the exchange, and soon the video of the duel and John's heroic act went viral, racking up thousands of positive comments overnight. "True hero who stayed calm under pressure," one user wrote. "We need to honor our traditions and those who uphold them," another added. "John's story reminds us all about respect and honor," a third comment concluded. Michael, realizing the gravity of his behavior, apologized to John and the entire group of tourists. His actions had served as a lesson for everyone present about the value of tradition and respect. As the day wound down, John adjusted his hat and resumed his post. The crowd slowly dispersed, but the memory of the event lingered, highlighting the importance of mutual respect and understanding in today's world. The author adds with a touch of sarcasm, "Who knew a water pistol showdown would end with a heartwarming lesson? Sometimes, humility beats entitlement every time." John stood tall, embodying the enduring spirit of the British Guard. The sun set behind Buckingham Palace, casting a golden glow that seemed to honor his unwavering dedication. The incident had not only reinforced the significance of traditions, but also reminded everyone that true respect transcends modern arrogance.